Today, I want to talk to you about future imaginaries, the multiple futures of energy. And there's some points that I'd like to really emphasize. One is that energy futures are contested. We don't have a single vision of what the future of energy looks like that we agree on. Another is that these futures are contingent on what we want, on what we can agree on, what we think is possible. So our beliefs, our perceptions are critical to shaping energy futures. Which brings me to the third point, which is that socio-technical imaginaries of our energy systems, which are not only technical, but systems that we engage with in society on an everyday basis. Those imaginaries are powerful things. They are visions, they are perceptions, they are deeply embedded in the way we make decisions. And since they matter so much, it's important for us to take the time to understand them. As an energy geographer, I think of the contestations on energy futures as something that differs from place to place, but also has patterns, also has certain socio-spatial characteristics. So these futures are specific to particular places, to particular histories, and it's worth looking at how things have evolved over time in relation to a place and its own sources of energy, its need for energy, its energy use and demand, in order to understand how people consider what energy is for, where it should come from, and why it matters, in what way it matters. Let's take a couple of examples. I'm sitting right now in my office at the University of Stavanger, and 50 years ago, the city of Stavanger and the region of Rogaland that it's located in were quite poor. Then, just before Christmas in 1969, we struck one of the most massive oil finds in human history. And that has transformed the fortunes of the region and of the country. So now we have oil rigs offshore that drill and extract enormous quantities of fossil fuel, of oil and gas, and export it. Further into the past, Norway has been a hydropower giant. We have sourced a great deal of our power domestically from hydropower, and the geography of the country with lots of fjords and mountains and lots of water flow allows for not only producing power but also storing it through reverse hydropumping in the form of large water batteries, if you will, which means that a lot of the electricity consumption within Norway comes from hydropower, even though a lot of the money that's made from fossil fuels is from exports, and this is stored in a massive sovereign wealth fund that makes a lot of the national economic activities possible and provides security to people in terms of a pension fund and so on. This means that questions of energy transition are quite complex in Norway because we can't delink energy futures from the material basis of society, of the economy, and what livelihoods are connected with what people's sense of security and what they want is connected with. But moving to a different context now, to the southwest of Portugal, where I've been working for the past few years on solar energy, we can see how even this sort of vision within a society can change, and sometimes it can change quite rapidly. In 2017, when I started looking at solar energy in Portugal, it had some of the greatest wealth of resources when it comes to solar irradiation, but it wasn't something that the country saw as a large part of its future. It was seen as a source that has to be subsidized, and Portugal was quite badly affected by the economic recession from 2008 to 2015. So there wasn't a public appetite to invest in clean energy if it meant going back to austerity politics, for instance. And yet it changed extremely quickly because of the fall in cost in solar energy as soon as the government designed new mechanisms, put in new institutions, a Ministry of Environment and Energy Transition that brought together the environmental and energy portfolios, and then devised an instrument like solar auctions that allowed solar developers to bid competitively on installing solar plants. The picture changed completely. The social imaginary of solar energy in Portugal became one where people see it as a big part of the future, see it as benefiting the public, see it as helping lead a transition towards clean energy, low carbon energy, and energy that's affordable. Now, the point I'd like to make here is that the imaginary was instrumental in bringing about this change when in 2019 Portugal set a world record for the lowest price on solar auctions at the time, and when just this week in August 2020 it registered 10 times the interest that the current solar auctions have in terms of the capacity on offer. This was a change in not only perception and the kind of fundamentals of the economics of the sector. It was a change in where the country wants to head, and that came about because of the National Energy and Climate Plan 2030 that was launched at the start of 2019 by each of the member states of the European Union, including Portugal. It came about because the new ministry, within months of being created, launched a carbon neutrality roadmap 2050 that really has the ambition to grow towards an economy that is not emitting a lot of greenhouse gases, that is moving away from carbon emissions in multiple sectors, including energy, mobility, forestry, industry, and so on. And these examples show us that imaginaries are important for creating energy futures, that they are contingent, that they are contested. And the more that we can bring about agreement on a vision of the future where we have low carbon sources that drive, that power our societies in ways that benefit all of us in accordance with our needs, the more we can work towards imaginaries of a sustainable energy future. Thank you.